I'm a 29-year-old woman. I lived in a big city all my life, but at the beginning of April I moved to a medium-sized town along with my sister and our 4 pets. This happened about a month afterwards. My sister was preparing for a show in the city to present some of her artwork at a gallery, so she had to spend the entire day there, leaving me home alone. After a few hours with just me and our pets, I decided to go for a long walk with my 2 dogs as the late afternoon turned into early evening. We walked around town, up and down new streets, which I loved doing. The suburbs always seemed foreign to me, but now I can't get enough of it, especially the quiet. As we were heading back, I saw a man knocking on a door of a house, and for some reason he seemed out of place. Not dangerous looking, just not from around here. He seemed a bit nervous since he would knock, then look around, then knock again and look around. Minding my own business, I just walked past the house he was at and towards my own. All of a sudden, I could feel someone coming up behind me, so I turned to see the man standing there as if he wanted to ask me something. He was tall and slender and was carrying what looked like a box of candy. He asked me if I had any coins to spare. I told him, "Sorry, mate, I only have my dog's poopy bags. Have a good one." And I was ready to keep walking when he saw one of my tattoos and stopped me. For some context, I have tattoos. I'm not heavily tattooed, but I have several on my arms and legs, and since I was wearing shorts, the ones on my legs were visible. The specific one he was looking at is of a ghost woman in a traditional Japanese style. As he stopped me, he said, "That's a really cool tattoo. Would you give it to me?" I just laughed uncomfortably, thinking he was joking, but by the intense, unblinking look on his face, he was dead serious. He then continued by saying, "No, so you're just going to let the maggots eat it?" Such a shame. It would be much better if a person ate it. At this point, he gave me a very flat smile that seemed to be an attempt to be friendly, but only made me feel even more uncomfortable. He then asked me for my name, and not wanting to antagonize him, I gave him a fake one. Let's say it was Regina. He then asked me if I lived in town, to which I also lied and said that I was from the city and just visiting. He then told me he used to live in the city too. He lived on the streets downtown. He told me he used to rap on buses to get money, and just out of the blue started rapping about me, looking me straight in the eye. He rapped about how I was very pretty, how amazing my tattoos are, and in his rap, he said my name was Lorena. I corrected him and said my name was Regina and not Lorena, since I had a suspicion he realized I had given him a fake name and was testing me. He just smiled and nodded. He then asked me if I'd give him my number. I said that me and my dogs had to go home, that we were expected. He pointed at a butcher shop a block away and told me that we could sit over there while I gave him my number, that it wouldn't take long, but I told him that I couldn't, that the one waiting for me at home was my boyfriend, but I was lying again, since I was home alone. His smile faded a bit and he just said, "Well, that sucks." I wished him a good evening and turned around to leave, only for him to drop to his knees and grab my leg with both of his hands. He started caressing my tattoo while whispering it really is a GD damn cool tattoo. My dogs are pretty friendly, and they were very calm during this whole exchange, but when he grabbed my leg, they started growling. I pulled my leg out of his hands, wished him a good evening again, and just walked away as fast as I could. I took a longer way home to make sure he didn't follow me, and once home I took a shower and scrubbed my leg really well, since I felt gross after all that. Luckily for me, I haven't seen him again. But for a while after that, I made sure to cover my tattoos every time I went outside, just in case. You can't be too careful. You never know who could be watching, and you definitely have no idea how twisted some people's minds really are. You hear stories about people unknowingly squatting in other people's homes, but never think it would actually happen to you. It happened to me. About 10 years ago, I, a then 31-year-old female, was living alone in a 2-family house on the 2nd floor with my then toddler. For the story to make sense, I need to try and explain the layout and the backstory. My brother's close friend at the time lived on the 1st floor and is the one who referred me to the landlord. We had private front entrances, but a shared back entrance with a staircase that ran from the basement all the way to the 2nd floor. I would frequently leave my back door unlocked because I had a habit of locking my keys in the house, and my downstairs neighbour could let me in the back door. The downstairs neighbour had a friend who was kind of down and out. He had a history of substance abuse but was supposedly clean at the time. He was a relatively nice guy, and my neighbour had been letting him stay on his couch for a while. The neighbour had a 4-year-old daughter, and having someone constantly sleeping on the couch without any plans of finding a permanent living situation was becoming disruptive to their everyday lives. Neighbour tells him he needs to go. It was summertime, so the friend decides he's going to sleep on the couch on our covered porch. We tell him that's not acceptable, and when we asked him to leave, we meant the property in general. It had also become abundantly clear that he was using again, and his behaviour had become somewhat erratic. He was also making a lot of unsolicited advances on me, which had become increasingly uncomfortable. He wasn't happy, but it wasn't our problem. He stopped coming around, and we no longer saw him around town. Fast forward a month or two, and I noticed things going missing. Jewellery, small amounts of money left around the house, lighters, inconsequential items I had written off as lost. This house was old, with paper-thin walls. The back door in question was right next to the bathroom along one side of the shower. It also made a very distinct noise when opened. One day my car was at the mechanic, so it probably appeared that I wasn't home. I'm showering and I swear I hear the back door open. I freeze, practically stop breathing. But after a few minutes, when nobody murdered me, American Psycho style, I wrote it off again. I'm a notorious wimp, and had a history since childhood of thinking every strange noise was a potential murderer. This was a long time ago, so I don't remember the exact length of time, possibly a few weeks. The basement was really big and shared, and the landlord also stored stuff down there. It was very packed with some very dark corners. We rarely went down there. The landlord comes by one day and goes down to the basement. He hears a strange noise, grabs a baseball bat and finds this man in our basement. The man pushed the landlord down, runs out of the house and down the street. We call the police, who find him hiding in a trash can around the corner. Can't make this stuff up. Upon further investigation, we find the basement window had been ever so slightly propped open. In a back corner behind some boxes was a nest of blankets filled with our missing items, plus some drug paraphernalia. It reminded me of Creature's nest under the stairs at Grimold Place. If you know, you know. He had also left his flip phone behind in the chaos where we found a lot of pictures of me sleeping. This man had been high on crack, living in our basement, and regularly entering my apartment both when I wasn't home and when I was sleeping for months. While he seemed like a nice guy, he was regularly high on hard drugs, and that changes people. I still get chills knowing he could have done anything to me and my child, and I would have never seen it coming. The worst part is that the charges somehow got dropped and they never even consulted us, and they never gave us an option as the victims. This was not even close to his first criminal offence. My state is notoriously soft on non-violent criminals, regardless of whether it was a victimless crime or not. My local police department is also notorious for making deals in exchange for information on even small-time dealers. We didn't get any justice. Luckily, this didn't have much lasting effect on my mental health, just more of a WTF, can't believe that really happened. It felt like a fever dream. At the time, I was in my old bedroom, which was basically one of the smallest rooms in the house. My bedroom could only fit a bed, 2 nightstands, and a dresser with a mirror screwed on top. It was a room in the basement. Now, most of you guys probably think a basement is dark, creepy, and eerie, but mine was not. My parents made sure to make it as full of life as possible. They painted the walls, installed a gaming room, which I used often, and basically made it really cool if someone in our family wanted to have a party down there. So, at that time, we had 3 cats. One was named Beast, which was my favourite. I loved her, took care of her, and she was always there to make sure I wasn't depressed. Sometimes we would just let her go outside during the night, and I would let her in sometime when she scratched on my window, which was on ground level. I was an insomniac, and I never slept well. My parents knew about it, so they decided to get some melatonin pills to help me sleep. Being in the basement, my window was on the top of my bedroom's wall, which meant my cat didn't need to hop on any type of ledge or border to scratch with her paws on it from the outside, letting me know that she wanted to get in. It was a night that I decided to take some melatonin pills, which worked fantastically, so I was literally about to sleep, like on the edge of dreaming, when I heard my cat scratching. Or so I thought. I sighed and got up to move my curtains out of the way so I could let her in. But when I opened my window, I heard something heavy move. There was gravel outside that were being moved around like someone was walking back and forth. At that time, I was too sleepy to realize that it wasn't a cat's footsteps that I heard, but a human's. So, still not clearly thinking straight, I yelled my cat's name and put my hand out of the window to tap on the ground as such, to let my cat know that she could come to get in. That was my mistake. In no time, I heard the footsteps again coming straight to the window, and I felt a man's hand grab my arm and start to pull me out of my window. I started screaming for someone to come and help me, but nobody came. I felt the adrenaline instantly rush to my body and quickly grabbed a sharp object. I believe it was a dirty knife covered in old food, and stabbed the guy's hand. I heard a blood-curdling scream, a scream I would remember for the rest of my life. The man let go and quickly ran away as fast as he could, as I fell back onto my bed, rolling off, opening my door and running as fast as I could upstairs to my parents' bedroom to tell them the horror story I just lived. They woke up fast and called the cops, reassuring me that I was safe and all that, while caring for my horrible bruise from the man's grip on my arm. The police arrived at the house and I told them what happened. I was still under adrenaline, so my words weren't sounding very clear. With the man's blood that was on the knife, they managed to get his name and where he lived. They followed up with us and explained that this man had gotten arrested for attempted kidnapping and that he already had charges from many other crimes he committed before. I am still traumatized to this day. Why he chose my house, my room, my window, and that night, I will never know.